Hello everyone, my name is Haley Swanson and I did my final paper for organizational conflict on gender conflict in law enforcement organizations. So for those of you who have had classes with me before, you know I am a police officer and a female police officer in a male dominated field. So some of the conflicts I've seen within my organization between males and females interested me, and since it fit in with the organizational conflict, I figured it would be a good option for this paper. So before I begin, I just want to say thank you to everyone. This is my last quarter of the program as I will be graduating this spring. So I have appreciated working with all of you and am excited for all of us that are graduating. So to start things off, like I said, gender conflict in law enforcement organizations. I posted two pictures here of people from my agency. This first one, there's actually four women and one male. And then the second one, I'm the only female with five other police officers. So two different kind of scenarios. This is the more common one, but I'll talk more about the gender differences within my agency in a few minutes. Women in law enforcement. It's a male dominated career field. That's pretty obvious. It's always been a male dominated career field with a male dominated agency. There will be male and female stereotypes. So it's going to be this typical stereotypes that you guys would expect. The men are the big, strong, egotistical males. The women are the soft-spoken nurturers, not as strong type stereotypes that I still see today. This statistic here, 12% of police officer jobs, so that's referring to women in law enforcement jobs, only 12%, and that was 2002. So it is still a heavily dominated male field. It's getting better, but it's still male dominated with that only 12% there. So in my police department, since I'm going to be drawing on a lot of my experiences, my police department is about 90 sworn officers. That includes the chief, the captains, the lieutenants, the sergeants, detectives, etc. There's only 9 female police officers at our agency. So this is actually considered a high female to male ratio. So you guys are probably thinking, well, that doesn't make sense. There's only 9 officers, only 10% of her department is females. In comparison with a lot of the other agencies surrounding my agency in the Bay Area, 10% female officers is actually pretty high in comparison to males, at least in the area I work. So my paper is going to be focusing on workplace harassment and what I've experienced and what my friends and other coworkers have experienced at different agencies, and kind of drawing on that to come up with the information for my paper and the gender conflict, in addition to what I found in the literature. So what does the research say? Women police officers are harassed by male coworkers. I would be interested to see if this was prevalent in all male dominated fields. For my paper, I just focused on law enforcement and police officer organizations, but the research shows that women are harassed by men in male dominated fields like law enforcement. The harassment includes targeting their intelligence level, their strength, and their communication skills. And then this question I have here at the bottom, can women do the job properly? That is constantly talked about in the research. Are they mentally capable? Are they physically capable? Are they going to be able to perform effectively in the dangerous situations? So these are some of the questions that their coworkers have for them and has shown up in surveys and interviews in the research. My personal experience. So the first part of my paper really drew on what I've experienced within my organization. that shows that this is still a problem with law enforcement agencies. So this first one here, you don't want to work here. I had a non-sworn female employee that works for my agency, and she still works for the agency. Before I even applied, this was 5 years ago or so, she says, "You don't want to work here. It's the good old boys club." So before I was even applying, she was trying to tell me, yeah, it's still the male dominated culture. It's all the guys hang out together, the women aren't included. She was still saying that those stereotypes that have been kind of plaguing law enforcement ever since the beginning are still prevalent today. So I obviously didn't take her advice because I'm working at the agency now, but it was already kind of brought to my attention before I even applied for the job. The second one, hired because of gender. So when I applied, there was about 150 people who had oral boards. There was 3 of us that ended up getting picked overall. So they based it on a ranking. You get ranked. I had a pretty high ranking, and some people said I was only hired because I was a female. The department was trying to diversify, and they only hired me because they needed more women officers, and who knows if I was qualified or not. My physical ability was called into question before I was even hired. So when I had my interview with the chief, he asked me, "Haley, are you prepared for the police academy? It's going to be very physical. Are you going to be prepared for the strength? Are you essentially going to be able to pass the physical portion of it?" When I was in the academy, my physical strength was called into question. For those who aren't familiar with law enforcement, the academy is 6 months. There's a very, very rigorous physical aspect that you have to go through. You have to do 40 push-ups in a minute, 40 sit-ups in a minute. You have to bench press 80% of your body weight. There's all these things. You have to run a mile and a half in a certain amount of time. There's all these things you have to pass the police academy. It's the same requirements for men and women. It's not different. So when you see law enforcement officers on patrol, they've all passed the same requirements. So even though we all have the same physical requirements, I knew that the chief was not asking male officers if they were going to be physically capable. I saw the female officers being scrutinized for their physical abilities during the academy, and I still get it on patrol even today. This one here, earn the respect of coworkers. I had a field training officer tell me that my coworkers would be able to respect me once I got in a fight with someone. So what he was essentially saying is no one was going to take me seriously until I was able to prove myself in a physical fight. Another thing that's kind of called into question that creates a conflict with males and females within my agency is maternity leave. So when women go out on maternity leave, they are put in the building instead of on patrol. There's a lot of liability that kind of goes around it, but they are taken off the streets essentially. So when women come back, will they be the same after they have children? Are they going to be reliable? Are they going to be afraid of getting hurt because they have a little one at home? We've had 3 female officers who have gotten pregnant recently, and I've seen the men question them, all of them, these same questions. Are we going to be able to rely on them? Are they going to get back in shape? Are they going to put themselves out there in these dangerous situations? The same questions over and over again. This other one, abandonment of the team. So they're looked down upon like they're not being a team player when they leave for maternity leave. Like they're abandoning their team, they're leaving everyone else out there. Now they're working with one less body on the streets. These are some of the things that are called into question that create conflict between men and women. So before I go into some of the suggestions I have to improve this, I'm going to stop this recording and go with a second recording. That way I can get it all completed and not have to keep it within the 15-minute time crunch of this application. So please see the part 2 to see the solutions that I have for this problem.